guys, I'm Brain Smasher, and as you can tell, I'm here again with another thing where I lie to you and I say, I'm not going to spend any more money on records, I really need to button it down, and then I don't, and I go somewhere and I buy some things, and so I'm going to tell you about them. I went to Chicago last weekend. I went to a show by an infamous band called Tropical Fuckstorm, and it was really fun. Hadn't been to Chicago in a while, and I picked up some bounty. Where to begin? Some of this is shit I've gotten in the mail too, so just let's gather around. Let's talk about what's going on in the background. My cheapskate ass just paid €2 for this Dark Storm, the early years. This is what's playing in the background. Black metal with this guy is back in a real major way. It was I don't know. I guess you could. I've always been obsessed with this EP by a band called Baal from France, and they had this EP called Bleeding for Him. I love it, and I listened to it the other day, and it kind of just blew me away, as it usually does. And I just got to thinking, like, what else could I find around that area, scene, and time period, and style that might kind of hit the same way? And so that's kind of been my impetus for listening to more and looking out for more black metal of this very specific ilk. But so far, nothing hits quite like this EP, demo, full length, I don't know, from a band called Atrox. Not the one from Norway, they're from France, and the album is called Infest and Desecrate. I don't have it. There's scant information about it on the interwebs, but it is on YouTube, so it's great. You can probably see me freaking out about it, so I'm hoping I can maybe find a copy of it here soon. We'll see. But I did manage to track down a copy of the demo that followed up that, which I cannot find for... Actually, no. Yeah. I found a copy of it for really cheap. Came from France. Here it is. I haven't listened to it yet, so as soon as this video is done, I will put this on and see what it's all about. But really, really highly recommended stuff. At least the Infest and Desecrate stuff is. And just, I remember back in the day, Spike Cult Records, which is the label run by Herva from Antaeus, just had a lot of really, really killer stuff, really of this ilk, very French-centric. So this is copy 166 of 200. I remember my friend who was in college, he would get on, so like he would go away out of town for during the week to go to school, and do his school stuff, and then he would get into like internet forums and stuff, and AOL, like this is back in like 98, 99, and he got in touch with Herva from Antaeus, Spike Cult, and he would start trading tapes with them, handwriting these letters, and like looking for recommendations for stuff out there that was like what's going on in the underground over in Europe. And Herva had the most fantastic handwriting. It was just super memorable. It just looked really elegant. So like I think he wrote the number on this, but yeah. Anyways, Atrox, good stuff. Dark Storm, the early years is a demo compilation. Just digging into it right now. Listened to a little bit of it, and I was like, hey, this demo comp is super cheap. So this is a side project from members of Maniac Butcher, who are mighty, unstoppable killer band. And honestly, I could not tell you the difference between Maniac Butcher and Dark Storm. Some of the Dark Storm stuff that I have been listening to is like really, 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 really raw, whereas I think Maniac Butcher has a little bit more of a polished sort of sheen to it. And so far, this first lead-off track is sounding pretty on par with that Maniac Butcher stuff. Okay, so this is the Four Lucan Emperors MCD, which some of you might be familiar with, even though all their album covers are apparently very identical. Four Lucan Emperors is kind of a classic, if you will. Okay, I stopped in at Reckless Records, and they had bought in a collection of some sort. I'm not sure when it had gotten there, how soon I got there to it, but there were a ton of goodies. A lot of stuff that I didn't really want to shell out quite enough money for, but I'll be showing you the pictures, highlights from it as I talk. Just lots of killer stuff. So there were a lot of stuff from my wheelhouse, my time period, my favorite sort of niche wheelhouse, and a lot of the stuff was really affordable. So starting it off, we got Sadism with Tribulated Bells, and this as the Dark Side EP tacked onto it, reissue, 2017, something like that, remastered. This is a Chilean death thrash band. This is their second album, or maybe their debut. I showed their demo compilation a couple of updates ago, and that stuff was very choice. So this is a little bit more polished, a little bit more developed ideas from that really raw, primitive Chilean sound that they were had on display on those demos. But what a cool find. I had been poking around for copies of that on Discogs. It just seems like every day I go to look for something on Discogs, and there's no copies in the United States, and there are lots of them over in Europe, and they're like under 10 euro, but the shipping is like $75 fucking dollars. Like, what am I doing wrong? I don't understand. So I did actually shell out $20, I believe, for this, $5 for the tape, and like $15 for the shipping. And then this Dark Storm was like €2, and the shipping was like 12, something like that. Semantics. So this album I haven't listened to it yet, but I'm thinking about doing a new series where I kind of like stand up for poorly reviewed albums. Now, obviously, there's going to be albums that I discover are poorly reviewed, but I haven't heard, so I want to give you like an honest, objective take, and then kind of do a comparison with the reviews. I think that'd be fun. It's not a far cry from my idea of like the reaction videos that I used to do many years ago called Sad Reacts Only. Anyway, so this is a band called Forced with Helvetic War. They were a Swiss black metal band, kind of joked about, kind of lauded in the scene. And their debut, some guys kind of like them. They're just a kind of a band that were there at the right time, and nobody seemed to like them. I don't really quite remember why. They wound up, I think they were broke up for a year or two or three, and then they wound up coming back as under the name of Morgart, which had a really cool, I think, full length or something. Anyways, this is on last episode, and like I say, that's more than enough for me to shell out a couple bucks for it. So we'll see how that is. So recently discovered this when I was digging around on Massacre Records, and for some reason I thought this was like way out of print, mega rare, $300 kind of thing. I was wrong, but this is very easy to get. Experiment Fear. The cover art is kind of shite, but assuming the God form, I need to give this more of a listen to give you like a well adequate review of it because it deserves it. But it's just pummeling, hellish death metal from 93, 94, somewhere around there. Really well produced. I feel like if this would have come out on American label that was more well distributed, this guy's could have been pretty huge. But it's great. Kind of think, I don't know, deicide, Floridian kind of stuff. Pretty extreme, really intense. Another one kind of along those lines. I thought this was pretty rare, pretty hard to find. I remember seeing this behind the counter at my local record store and thinking, God, what an awful album cover. There's no way that's good. And here we are. A lot of people are kind of starting to show this thing around and kind of elevate it as a forgotten classic. I wouldn't go that far, but here we are with Creep Mime, with Shadows. A lot of you guys probably know this. I've been recently checking it out because it's kind of been going around. I don't know if it got reissued recently or something. This is a Pavement from... why would the year be there? Anyways, like, I don't know if I mentioned this. A lot of this stuff is going to be not too familiar with because I just picked it up literally 3 days ago, and not all of this stuff is shit that I have heard in the past. Can't remember. It's my second time shooting this video, so it's kind of frustrating, and I had some great segues from topics to topics. Can't remember how I wound up talking about my old band, Satan's Almighty Penis. I had a clever segue to get into that, and I forgot it. But anyways, it has been 20 years since my band, Satan's Almighty Penis, put out the album Into the Cunt of Chaos. It's kind of fucking wild, and I didn't really think about how it has been 20 years until the guys from the Bunsen Burner Podcast reached out to me the other day and said that they were covering my band's album on their podcast. Dashing all integrity into the oceans of oblivion and talking about Satan's Almighty Penis for 3 hours. Bunsen Burner Podcast is great. They do a lot of covering very underground, very forgotten relics of the past. Not very much current music. It's very mega nerd stuff. And the podcast is, I think they do it weekly. They'll just kind of shoot the shit and, do a lot of dumb podcast jokes for about an hour. And then the back half of the episode, they just really dig into the details of an album for about 45 minutes to an hour. So I love hearing people just nerd talk about nerd albums that I love, and I feel it makes me feel like I'm vindicated and validated in my love for this stupid noise that I listen to. So that should be out any day now. I'll put a link down below, either for the podcast in general or the episode specifically that I'm talking about. So that was a fun nostalgia trip. They did interview me about the album and the band, so it isn't just shooting the shit. I really went back and just kind of dug up any context that I possibly could, and I told stories about recording the album and what went into the making of the band, really from day one to the end. And so that was fun, so check that out. And listen to Satan's Almighty Penis. Shall ya? Anyways, next. So because we were a band, Satan's Almighty Penis, who had a really dumb name, which we liked to play with a little bit, there were other bands internationally that we felt we kind of had like a kinship with because their names were also stupid. Those bands, at least off the top of my head, were Hatsbarn and Hymen of Darkness. And this weekend I picked up my first Hymen of Darkness album. Now, these splits never happened. We never recorded with them. They were just kind of like, if we do a split, it's going to be with these guys. Unholy total hate. Fuck you all. Now, that is always like a catchphrase on an album that means we know it isn't very good, but cut us some slack. We're heavy drinkers and we play our instruments like shit, so you bought it, it's your fault, kind of thing. That's kind of like the phrase that I think of when it's an album of that ilk. And we also just completely lifted Dark Throne's logo off, so there's probably nothing original about that whatsoever, but maybe just kind of some fun attitude going on there. So that's in my collection now, thank heavens. Next, another death metal kind of classic, Viogression with Expound and Export. Exhort. I don't know, I kind of jumped up and thought, holy shit, this is here. I hope nobody sees me paying $8 for this or something. I don't know. Am I the only one that does this? I feel like I miscategorize, or I mistakenly think that Craze is like this ultra rare label that that's out of print. You never see this stuff anywhere. Kind of not the case, actually. I find that I actually see Ripping Corpses, Dreaming with the Dead kind of in the wild a lot, honestly. You should be able to pick that thing up for like $25. And so, I don't know. I thought this was like, holy shit, but it wasn't that big of a deal anyways. But I haven't really listened to this much, so we'll see what gets into that. Okay, I have this very, very, very long, deep-seated memory of listening to black metal on MP3 that I got from probably Napster or Audio Galaxy back in 2000 or something. And one of the bands that I discovered on there was this band called Spell Forest from Brazil. And I remember specifically, as far as I can remember, it being a demo. And it was just killer. It was like 4 tracks, killer stuff, kind of symphonic, kind of South American sounding. And I couldn't remember what it was called. I just remembered like Spell Forest demo. Me and my buddy Wayne used to just talk about the Spell Forest demo. Anyways, I haven't been able to track down a copy of that demo digitally or otherwise. So it's kind of weird. What they did, I think, was they put out a demo first with like 1 or 2 tracks on it, 11 minutes long, called Adornis Satani. Then they put out a second demo with 2 of those tracks and 2 more tracks and called it Adornis Satani. And then they put out a full-length album with 12 tracks on it and called it Adornis Satani. So I don't know, they were bankrolling this to get it going, but I have listened to this recently in my trying to, chase back that memory about hearing the demo and think, like, is this the same thing? I don't know if it's the same band or same whatever. Anyways, the budget for these guys is sword and skulls and pentagrams and candles and candlesticks and spikes, and corpse paint is absolutely top notch. These guys are bringing it. A lot more budget in that theatrics department than the songwriting. Look at those weapons. I bet these weapons are sitting in an antique store or something, or like a gas station gift shop in Rio de Janeiro now. So yeah, I'm looking forward to spinning this physical. It's here in my home now, so I'm gonna give it another chance and see where we're gonna be at. 2 more CDs and then some vinyl, and I got a tape. So another old school thing that I don't really remember much of. I think what I remember is seeing this album cover in a lot of catalogs and thinking that looks fucking awesome. I don't know what the original label, yes I do, Blackened Records put this out originally. M. Svartner. You put the fart in M. Svartner. Look at that Chris Berwimp album artwork. Don't really remember what this is like. I think they're Swedish. Yeah, we'll see. Oh, so along with the black metal that I've been getting into, remembering, etc., a band has kind of popped up that I remember liking, haven't listened to in a long time, Sacrilegium from Poland. And this was in the bin for like $3. This is Sacrilegium's Embrace the Darkness. So this is a demo compilation. It's not so great. In fact, I have one of the EPs that is on this, so there's a little bit of unreleased material on here. I thought it was worth picking up for a little bit, but it didn't really quite scratch that itch. Like I said, so far nothing has scratched the itch of the Aatrox, Infest, and Desecrate. So far, I need you guys to tell me off the top of your head what you think sounds like Aatrox's, Infest, and Desecrate. Let me know. I think I have a lot of good answers, but so far it's got to be very specifically almost identical to that in order for me to like it. Semi-blown out, really simplistic, sort of skanky drumming sometimes between like kind of like a mid-blast Really, really raw overall tone to it. And what I really love about the guitar riffs is there'll be like a rhythm guitar, and the lead guitar will be like 2 or 3 octaves above it, playing similar notes to the rhythm. And I get so much out of that distance between the bass rhythm guitar and the leads. I love how much room there is between those two things. Something about that just rules for me. And then the vocals just kind of live in there in that world. And then with this Aatrox, the bass playing is fucking amazing. Especially if you only listen to one track from it, go to track 5 on it. The bass playing on that thing is fucking top notch. Weirdly unheralded album. I don't know. Maybe I'm out of my fucking mind. But I was stoked to also pick up, now this is from the mail, another one, censored cover, I don't know, Teratoma from Viscera Infest, the new one. There's a lot of revivalist, grindcore kind of stuff going on, and I love a lot of it, sure. But for some reason, Viscera Infest for me just kind of plays like a band that never went away. They were always there, grinding away. They kind of take me back to like Warsaw, but riff-wise, kind of like a more simplistic Recapitulation Carcassy kind of thing. But they've got their own kind of knack to it. I struggle to define what the Japanese sound is in a lot of music. I can't really put my finger on it, but sometimes I find myself saying like, that sounds Japanese, but I don't know why. So I'm saying that here, and I don't know why. But dude, these guys sometimes reach up into the probably like 315 BPM or so. Absolutely crushing. The tone on it is great. If I could change one thing on their previous 2 full lengths, I think I would make it just a little bit more better, just a little better sounding. And this is kind of great. It's kind of like the upgrade that I think we all enjoyed with the new Brodequin album, where they were like a really, really nasty band, and they cleaned it up enough but didn't really lose any of the integrity or the heaviness of just the absolute visceral tone of it overall. How about here? I visited my buddy John Rosenthal. Some of you might know him from this Mors Vaitaki band. They just had this new release come out, Another Path. I haven't checked it out yet. I don't know what it's like, but thank you, John, for that copy of that. And it was good to see you. I visited Meteor Gem for the first time, and that is kind of the Chicago record store for metal vinyl. Yeah, they got more than Reckless there. Reckless kind of has everything, but they have a really decent metal section there. But Meteor Gem has kind of everything. Really, really impressed with that. I wound up picking up this Dust EP, Subside. Really, really good. It's just on black vinyl. I think everything here is on black vinyl, so not a whole lot to write home about. But I need to pick up their full length. I don't even have it on CD. And I'll just echo this. Simon from Explosive Action, who is a very big fan of Disembowelment, says that Inverloch is better than Disembowelment. I am not disagreeing or agreeing, but that's a big statement. So there you go. That was Meteor Gem. And then I also stopped in at Bucket of Blood and picked up something that you would think I already owned a copy of. I do love this record. I've just always prized my CD copy of World Downfall by Terrorizer. But I don't know, vinyl pressings by bigger labels these days kind of tend to be just not very faithful to the originals, and a lot of times that just kind of really irks me, especially if I don't like need to have it. But this, I think the album cover looks perfect. I think the back presentation, perfect. Everything about this just looks exactly like I think it ought to. Not that I have an OG of it or anything. It was sealed. Center labels are great. Just everything about this is absolutely the way it ought to be done, as far as I'm concerned. And what a killer album! I had a grindcore phase when I was a lot younger, and I did wind up listening to this a lot more during that time. But I discovered this mostly because I was just obsessed with Morbid Angel when I first got into metal, and I wanted anything related to them. And kind of surprised how well this hit me back then, because I hadn't really heard any crust, wasn't really into any punk whatsoever of any sort, but I just think Sandoval's drumming is so insanely impressive on this thing that it's just hard to not absolutely love everything about this record. Absolute classic. World Downfall. That'd be a great shirt to have like an all-over print of, wouldn't it? So that was Bucket of Blood. And then I stopped in at this other store. Ugh. Fucking rules. And it was packed in there. There was a little cute dog that didn't want to get pets. And there was a DJ in there playing records. And literally this record store was probably no bigger than this room in which I sit. So I didn't expect to find anything in there. I found the metal bin. I always appreciate when the metal stuff is in a bin so I don't have to fucking touch a bunch of bullshit. And I found some gems. I don't remember the name of this record store, but dude, picked up some nice stuff. Didn't expect to find this Velvet Cocoon, North Suite. So I did really like these guys back when they first came out. I don't remember what I thought of this album in particular. It's been a really, really, really long time since I revisited this stuff. They kind of had a fall from grace because of some of their activities. They were kind of a trollish sort of band all along. Although, despite that, I'm surprised that more people don't regard their material as kind of like worth still celebrating. Even has it been maybe 15, maybe even 10 years since they were kind of doing their shit? No, it was like 2011 or so when they were 9, 10, 11, 15 years. Let's just say that when they were doing their thing. But they were really acting like fuckheads. I feel like the album, at least the material, could have stood on its own super well had they just never even opened their fucking mouths. But they were doing interviews, they were really active on the Full Moon forums, if I remember correctly, just making up shit about themselves all the time. And I feel like they were just trying to like prove that black metal nerds were a bunch of posers and nerds and they'll believe anything you tell them and whatever. I don't think they really proved anything other than they're kind of douchebags. They made up this elaborate lie about how, like, the tone that they were able to come up with, the guitar tone, was made by this, like, elaborate system of aquariums where they ran their audio guitar signal through water or like, gasoline or something. They called it the diesel harp. And somehow that was... Come on, bullshit. Why did nobody call them out on this? And then for their final hurrah, I think they said, we have a new album coming out or something. And they wound up releasing another artist's music under their name. Like, they straight up stole it and released it, I think, digitally only, luckily, as a Velvet Cocoon album. It's just like, what a shitty, stupid thing. Like, what point are you trying to prove? So, anyways, this here is a partied-on copy of their last, I believe, black metal album that Southern Lord reissued. Originally... Full Moon put this out. This has probably got to be the only like felt and metallic embossed logo LP I have. Unfortunately though, yeah, the records are pretty partied on. Used to go to so many parties where they were blasting Velvet Cocoon. It's weird. I feel like there is a certain type of metal vinyl nerd who picked up every single Southern Lord release that came out back then and couldn't get enough Sun-O and probably went to see them tour with the dude from Zaster on vocals or whatever. And I bet 50% of the records in their collection look like this piece of trash. So now it's in my collection. I didn't look at it to see if it was scratched up or partied on, so my bad, but whatever, I don't mind really a whole lot. And then I found this, The World Is So Good, that who made it? He doesn't even live here. Didn't even see a purpose in living here. So there's an ironic statement. I remember first hearing tracks from this one from the Gummo soundtrack, as a lot of you probably also remember. And that to me is Mystifier. Mystifier to me are a death metal band, and I know they have some black metal releases that are also good, but to me, the Mystifier that I want to hear is the Mystifier that I first heard on Gummo and on this album. Killer, I can't wait to blast this guy. It's been kind of a long time since I played that album anyways. That's the Nuclear War Now pressing. Nothing super special about that, but here is an OG that I didn't expect to come across. I literally gasped when I saw it. Limited to 300 copies. So I'm really evangelical if you know about a lot of Andrew J. Harris, Judas Iscariot's side projects. Judas Iscariot, great. Got a couple of duds in his discography, but it's very, very worth checking out. I can't think of the label that he ran his labels stuff, and then Merciless picked up a lot of his stuff. Breath of Night, that was it. Breath of Night stuff, a lot of killer shit in there. He was in a lot of other bands that are killer. Torrent, one of them. But this is where he got his start, and this is the last release from Sarcophagus. Look at that bad boy! From the Ruins of Paradise. Yes, Gluten Ison put this out. LP only release. You won't find this on any other format. Where are you? Oh well. So yeah, they started out as a death metal band, but got black around album 2 or so. Not particularly amazing or anything, but their last two, this one and the one before it, really, really, really good stuff. So I'm really stoked to have that. The jacket is a little beat up, but you know what? If this were in great condition, I would have had to pay probably $125 for it, and I wouldn't have done that. And sometimes it really breaks my heart to see something out in the wild that I would love to have in my collection, but I'm just not willing to pay the price for. But yeah, the vinyl looks really, really, really good. So welcome home, buddy. You, my friend. I know I say don't really sleep on camera, but it's not the same thing. It's different. All right, so when I got home from Chicago, I had 2 bangers sitting here waiting for me. Another one. You would think I would have already had this in my collection, but I didn't. Kind of latecomer to this band and album. It was really out of print when I was really getting into death metal, so I kind of missed that window back in late 90s, early aughts. Relapse put it back out, I think, around 2006 or 7 or so. Of course, I'm talking about World Without God from Convulse. I saw them play this album in its entirety live in 2019. And that experience, that whole festival, Ruins of Everest also played that. That was such a affirming experience that all the way through the pandemic, when I couldn't go to shows, couldn't leave the house, couldn't go out in public, I hung on to that memory so much, and saying like, this is what's going to get me through. This is what's going to make me want to go to metal shows again. In fact, I need to leave for a metal show pretty shortly here. So I was listening to this in my car the other day, and I just couldn't turn it up loud enough. And I decided, well, it's time I buy it on vinyl and play it really, really fucking loud. So here we are. That's it. It also has the demo on the end of it. And, you know, along the same ilk, those Finnish kids are really paying homage to their papas who laid the groundwork for their shit. These guys are kind of making waves. Damn it. I don't know what I think of, like, demos that are actually pressed out, like, by labels. Like, I know this was probably out on tape first and they put it on vinyl, but it just doesn't seem like a demo to me if it's, like, on 12-inch. But check out that artwork and give this a listen if that's all interesting to you. I believe these guys are Finnish, and if you can't read, that is Purulence with Transcendent Unveiling of Dimensions. Yeah. Get a load of this thing. So, killer demo. Maybe the best demo I've heard all year. Worth playing very, very, very loudly. I don't know. I just kept coming back to this on Bandcamp. Couldn't stop playing it and decided, you know what? It's time to do it. Usually if I'm going to shell out, you know, $30 for a 12-inch, it better be a full length. But, I don't know. I just really felt like having this. So, there's another gem. And that's a lot of homework for you to do until we meet again. I hope all is well with you. And there it is. Okay. That's all I got for you. Check out my Patreon and goodbye. Woohoo! That was a great video, and it was made possible mostly by me, but also thanks to the undying and kind support of my Patreon subscribers. Thank you all. I love you. If you are interested in being a part of my Patreon channel and supporting what I do, you are welcome to join at the URL below. It is only $6.66 per month, and you're going to love it.